we have Pete Koschnick. He comes to us originally from the West Coast. I heard something about him getting in trouble from a very early age. His first grade teacher, Miss Tudor, didn't think much of it. And he has continued to get into mischief by telling stories and showing the puppets ever since. And he will finish out our production here tonight.
What? Thank you.
Yeah. That was so
How y'all doing tonight? Boy, that light is bright. I can't see any of you. It must be a lovely audience. I can't see any of you. The story I have for you tonight is a story about love and stupidity. Love and stupidity as they really can only be experienced by a 15-year-old boy. In 1973, I was a sophomore at Centralia High School in Centralia, Washington. Centralia only exists because it's exactly halfway between Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon on Interstate 5. Chances are, if you're leaving Seattle to go to Portland and you get a large Starbucks, a venti, you're going to want to stop in Centralia for a few minutes on your way. There are only two things of note in Centralia then, and one of them is burned down, so it's no longer. But one was a 4-story tall chicken wire and fiberglass yardbird, which interestingly was in the middle of the parking lot of a store called Yardbirds. Picture, if you will, a super Walmart with a full-sized Army Navy surplus store stuck on top of it. That was Yardbirds. It was the closest thing we had to a mall. So part of every weekend as a teenager was spent at Yardbirds. The other thing of note was a sign that was on Interstate 5 just to the west of the interstate. It was a big muddy field with about 1,000 muddy white turkeys in it, and a sign for Hamilton Turkey Farms, double-sided so you could see it coming or going. And both sides were the same. They had a portrait of Uncle Sam looking wistfully off into the clouds. And then marquee lettering, which usually said something like, the American eagle can't fly on 2 left wings, or US out of the UN, or my favorite for a while, Henry Kissinger is the Illuminati. It was the temper of the town. We also had a community college, and that January of '73, I was flipping through the extension classes and the night classes catalog, and I saw an ad for ground school preparatory to taking flying lessons. And I always wanted to fly. My whole life I wanted to fly. I mainly wanted to fly, ideally on a big white horse with wings, and I could shoot arrows at everybody who'd ever bullied me. But I could settle for a Piper Cub. And this was a real deal. So I signed up middle of January. I jumped on my Huffy 10-speed bicycle, pedaled as fast as I could down to the college. It was raining because in that part of Washington State, Western Washington, it rains literally 360 days a year. That's not an exaggeration. I actually looked that up for Centralia in those days. It's a little better now that we have global warming and we're all dying, but back then. So I got to class soaking wet. Got locked up my bike, walked into the college, found my classroom, sat down, and I immediately realized 3 things. I didn't have anything to write on. I'd forgotten to bring notebook paper. I didn't have anything to write with because I'd forgotten to bring a pen or a pencil. And everyone else in the class was at least 20 years older than me. I was kind of thinking about getting up and leaving because I was dripping on the floor, dripping on the desk, when suddenly in through the door walked a true vision. A girl I knew from high school. She was a year older than me, a year ahead of me. We did share one AP English class. Her name was Tracy. She was tall, she was willowy, she had that little Dorothy Hamill bob haircut, for those of you who can remember Dorothy Hamill. And she was soaking wet. And I'd never seen anything so beautiful in my life. She sat down, she looked around, she sat down next to me because she recognized me vaguely. And I asked her for paper and a pencil, and she gave it to me. When her hands touched as she passed me the pencil, the 15-year-old hormones kicked in, and there was an electric shock that almost knocked me out of my chair. I was in love. At the end of the class, I asked if I could accompany her home because we were both on our bicycles. And it stopped raining by then, so we got on our bikes and we started biking. And suddenly I realized that she lived up on the top of Seminary Hill, which was a long push of it, even with a 10-speed up the hill to get there. But we talked the way 15-year-old boys talk to girls. What's your favorite color? 5 minutes of silence. Do you have any pets? 5 minutes of silence. But when we got there, I went to give her her pencil back. Our hands touched again, and she held onto my hand for a moment. Oh, I was in love. And now I had to go from Seminary Hill with its golf course and its country club and all the high muckety mucks down to Ford's Prairie, where I lived in the muck, in a little 4-bedroom ranch house with my folks. But I flew because I was in love. I immediately went to my friend Lenny to get some advice. I don't know why I used to go to Lenny for advice, because to my knowledge, he never had a girlfriend and never did, in the time I knew him. But he was also a year older. He was in the same age group as me, or same class as me, but he was a year older, and he had a couple really great things going for him. One was he had a driver's license, and the other one was that he had the use of a Volkswagen van. His family had a weird thing about Volkswagens. They had about a dozen of them in their yard, never more than 2 of them working at the same time. There were bugs and vans and station wagons. Remember the station wagon? And even one Carmen Ghia that had a small sapling growing up through the passenger side. Lenny got to use that particular van because one of his older brothers had rolled it at one point, and he got it running again, but the frame was bent, so when you went down the road, it was kind of like... And what's more, when it rolled, his brother had put a tape cassette player in it, but it got jammed when it rolled, so there was just one tape in there, and you couldn't get it out, and it would only play one song. The tape was by Tower of Power, and every time you turned on the van, the tape would kick in with, "What is hip? Tell me if you think you know. What is hip? If you're really hip, then surely time will show." So that was our theme every weekend. It was like our clubhouse. We'd drive around on Fridays looking for a party we never found, and then we'd go to Yardbirds and have a burger, and we'd go home. But I knew that Lenny went to the same Methodist church as Tracy's family. So I decided, I'd pump him for information. He informed me, he gave me great intel. He told me that she had a younger brother and sister, that her mom always got her hair done once a week, that she smoked Pall Malls, and that the entire family always went to Yardbirds to do their weekly shopping right after church on Sundays. So I made it a point to spend Saturday night at Lenny's house, went to church on Sunday, made eyes at Tracy. Immediately afterwards, went to Yardbirds, was standing there looking through the records very calmly when their family walked by. Second class, I rode my little bicycle down there. It was raining. I was soaking wet. But I remembered a pencil and paper this time. It's hard to write on wet paper with a pencil, but I did it. Tracy came in. She was bone dry because her mother had driven her down. And after class, her mother offered to drive us home. I agreed immediately. And we climbed into this bright candy apple green Town and Country station wagon with that fake plastic wood paneling on the sides and a dashboard like a 747. And I sat in the back seat, and Tracy in the passenger seat, and her mom up front. And I just wedged my head between the front seats so I could be part of the conversation, which was difficult because her mom was smoking that Pall Mall. And but when we got home, or got to her house, we didn't go to my house. We went up to her house on the hill, and then they invited me in for cocoa, and I went into this drywall mansion. It was just the most impressive building I'd been in years. And to give you an idea, their bathroom had an avocado sink, an avocado bathtub, and an avocado toilet. I was afraid to use it. I didn't. But afterwards, I worked up my guts, and I asked Tracy if she wanted to go to the movies with me, and she agreed. She gave me a little peck on the cheek. And I flew down the hill to the college, got on my bicycle, pedaled back through the rain to my parents' house in Ford's Prairie, and I was just... Her mom drove us on the date to the triplex, first one in Western Washington. Our choices were Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, Jeremiah Johnson, and Enter the Dragon starring Bruce Lee. I was betting on Bruce Lee. I figured she'd want the Zeffirelli. She fooled me, and we went for Jeremiah Johnson. I never saw the end of that movie, because about the time Jeremiah Johnson's family gets killed and he starts his vendetta against the Crow Indians, she and I were at it. Big time. Kissing, oh, it was great. We were going steady, which was my generation's version of, I don't know, being pinned, whatever. I look at Larry like he would know. We pushed our desks together in AP English. We walked the hallways at college, at the high school, hand in hand. I carried her books. We were so fucking cute. We went to the flight class. We pushed our chairs together. Best January I had in high school. February came in. She got her driver's license. We no longer needed mom to drive us in the town and country station. We didn't even need movies anymore. We just took the station wagon. And then her birthday hit, and three things happened. I got her this little silver butterfly necklace thing, had turquoise stones set in the wings. It was really cute. And she gave me a big kiss. She loved it and everything. And her parents got her flying lessons, full boat. I was going to have to work all summer as hard as I could once I got my driver's license to take flying lessons, but they just gave them to her. And she started taking the lessons, and things started to change, and we started drifting apart. And I couldn't figure it out. She moved her desk away from mine in AP English. She didn't wait for me in the hallways to walk to class with me. And then one day, towards the end of March, she gave me back the butterfly. And my heart was broken, so I went to Lenny. Because Lenny, so I asked him to pump, her family for information. So he went to her younger brother and sister, and it turned out that she was taking flying lessons from a 25-year-old Vietnam veteran who looked a lot like Robert Redford and had very loose ethics when it came to dating younger women. And she was in love with him. I needed to do something spectacular to win her back, and I didn't know what to do. I was sitting in the high school library just moaning, going over Janis Joplin's "Take Another Little Piece of My Heart Now, Baby." Oh, when Lenny comes walking up to me with a big grin on his face, he's got a copy of the library's Popular Mechanics magazine. Says, "I got your answer, dude." Boom, pops it down in front of me, and there was the headline. This was to save my life. You too can build a do-it-yourself hang glider in your own garage. What could go wrong? There were pictures, there were dimensions, there were material lists. Problem being, I couldn't afford any of the materials. There was steel tube and ripstop nylon and all that. And I didn't have the money for that kind of thing. But what I did have, bamboo grows out there the same way it does here. It's a major weed. So I went and cut about 15 big, long, 30-foot pieces of bamboo. And because it rains all the time, everybody's backyard has a big blue tarp covering something, a boat, a wood pile, grandma, something. So I went and I stole a bunch of those. And then I went to Yardbirds and I bought about 12 rolls of duct tape. I had a plan, but I needed a deadline. So we set the deadline for Easter Sunday. Gonna do it. Off to the side of Seminary Hill is another hill called Ham Hill. Ham Hill has a big ridge that goes out towards Yardbirds that has been used as a gravel pit for years. Big, long gravel pit. I decided what I would do is build my hang glider, jump off of Ham Hill, glide down into the parking lot of Yardbirds, just as her family pulled in, and I was gonna. To ensure success, Lenny and I went out and got a bottle of Boone's Farm apple wine and a bottle of Boone's Farm raspberry wine Saturday before Easter, and we set about doing a lot of pranks, some of which were a little bit illegal, most of which were really illegal. I don't remember them all. I do remember ejecting the wine at one point. But about 3 a.m, in order to ensure that Tracy's family went to Yardbirds, we went by her house, snuck through the bushes, and stole every Easter egg that her parents had put out for her younger brother and sister. And we ate a lot of chocolate, a lot of malted milk, and a number of sort of greenish, hard-boiled eggs. So when Sunday morning rolled around, I was in the best shape I could be. We spent the night up on Ham Hill. As the sun came out, we got out the duct tape, the blue tarps, the bamboo. We had gotten a Sam Brown belt. You know what a Sam Brown belt is, with the buckle with the 2 holes in it? Lenny's dad was a rather corpulent forest ranger. So we stole one of his Sam Brown belts. That was going to be my harness. And we taped and we taped and we taped. And then we sat on the edge above the gravel pit and watched the parking lot, waiting for that candy apple green Town and Country to pull in. Sure enough, here it came. Pulled into the parking lot. I picked up my hang glider, which I had named Pegasus. I was ready. I went up to the edge. I went up to the edge. I went up to the edge and Lenny kicked me in the rear end and I was taken off. A couple things happened right at the same time. One is it started raining hard. It had been drizzling all day, but it really started coming down, which on plastic tarps is really loud. The other thing is the rain had come in on a really strong westerly wind, which had come up into the gravel pit and shot up. So when I launched, I was immediately 200 feet up higher in the air than I had intended. What's more, when Tracy and her family got out of the Town and Country, they were all doing this. And so I'm up there hanging in the air, going, hey, look at me, Tracy, hey, woo. And they didn't even see me. They went into the store. And then I realized there was no way I was going to land in the parking lot. I was way up there. I was cruising along. And so I started nosing down, and I realized the wind was taking me over towards the 4-story tall giant yardbird. The giant yardbird, I should mention. Rather than wings, they gave him arms. Don't ask me why. One was up in what I think was supposed to be waving, but it actually was a giant claw. The other one was holding a very inadequate parasol painted bright yellow, and it was 4 stories tall. And I was headed right for it. I thought, oh God, what am I going to do? So I started trying to, you ever been on a hang glider? You sort of bank it by twisting the thing around. The Sam Brown belt is cutting me deeply. I might add, at that point, I was this tall, and I weighed 136 pounds. There's 2 teenage Petes inside here right now. But the belt was cutting me. I was headed right for the parasol. I didn't know what to do. I cut real hard, and I heard a sound nobody wants to hear when their life depends on plastic, bamboo, and duct tape. And that was the duct tape separating down the center of one of the wings. The rain was hitting it. More duct tape started coming loose. I was going down. I passed completely over the parking lot. I was flying towards Interstate 5. This was not a good thing. I was sure I was going to land and I was going to die. So I started pulling up a little bit, and I managed to get a little air. I thought maybe I can swing over towards the Chehalis River, which is a big windy river that goes through that valley. It's very muddy and very shallow. Floods every year. They won't build dikes, don't ask me. I thought maybe I could land in the river, but it winds a lot. And so I was trying to get, every time I get lined up, the river would turn, and I'd have to, and I was going down faster and faster and faster. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to what was in front of me, and I looked up, and suddenly there was Uncle Sam coming right at me as fast as he could. What's more, Uncle Sam had somehow during the night acquired a spray-painted black eye and the legend Free Angela Davis. Some vandals, probably drunk on Boone's Farm wine, had attacked the sign. I realized I was coming in. I thought maybe if I could pull up a little short, I could land in the mud with the turkeys. But then I thought, turkeys. So I started pulling back up, and it looked like I was going to clear the sign. I thought, I'm going to make it. But then all of a sudden, my Converse All-Stars caught the top of Uncle Sam's head. The whole hang glider just went kaboom, flop, into the mud. Killed 3 turkeys. Didn't seem like a good thing. I was stunned, breath knocked out of me, but I was alive. So I got up, looking around, and there, up the embankment, next to the guardrail of Interstate 5, was Lenny and his VW van. So I struggled up the side. I climbed into that warm van. What is hip? Tell me if you think you know. Obviously, I didn't impress Tracy, but I still thought I had a chance. So all summer, I worked as hard as I could. I worked for the Forest Service for a while, made some money. I worked at the St. Helens Hotel and Restaurant for a while, which used to have a beautiful view of Mount St. Helens, but then went. I saved up enough money to take flying lessons by the end of September. I got 2 flying lessons in. And then the OPEC oil crisis hit, and there was no fuel for flying lessons. So I said, to heck with it. I bought a 1963 VW van, which didn't run. But once I got it running, I threw Lenny in the front of it, and I took him to a concert in Seattle of Tower of Power. Because what is hip? Thank you very much.